Hello, YouTube. My name is Jerry, and I have a problem. I am addicted to baseball cards. I've seen a lot of videos recently talking about the gambling aspects of baseball card collecting, and it's compelled me to come clean, basically. I have a problem, and I can't stop buying baseball cards. So I appreciate the welcoming of myself into the Baseball Card Gamblers Anonymous group here. Now, my addiction isn't around buying lots of rookie cards to hopeful to in the hope that they will be worth a lot more in the later years. I don't buy raw cards and send them in to be graded in hopes that they'll come back as a 9 or a 10 and I can make a whole bunch of money on it. No, that's not me. I'm not a reseller of cards. I'm a collector. And I define collecting as someone who primarily buys cards for their personal collection and doesn't resell. I don't buy cards to resell them. I sell a few cards out now and then, right? But only because they're extra cards and I think I can get rid of them. But I don't ever flip cards. We'll call it that, right? My collection is comprised of lists, and we all have lists of cards we want, right? Some of us have one list, some of us have multiple lists. I have a lot of lists of cards. I think I have a lot of lists of cards. First and foremost, I collect sets. I've well established my position on that. If you've been paying attention and keeping score at home, I collect sets. I've always been a set builder since day one of my collecting, and it's just something that I can't get out of my blood. Currently, now I'm collecting putting together the 1973 top set as well as a 1968 top set. And then I've got some other cards I try to fill in some other sets too. So, but that's where I'm at for sets. I also collect Hall of Fame cards. I collect highlight cards. I collect league leader cards, all-star cards, World Series cards from base sets, those kind of things. And I have a list of those cards that I try to fill as well. Then I have, of course, St. Louis Cardinals, right? I like Cardinals team sets from the base sets primarily. So I've got binders of Cardinals team sets from the dawn of baseball card production to now. Just try and I just fill those binders up with Cardinal cards. Then I've got key cards from sets that I'm not putting together. So those sets that I'm not trying to build, I try to collect key cards from those sets. Then I also have player runs. We all have player runs. I've got player runs as well. I've got about a half a dozen players that I collect as well. And then lastly, I have a list of cards that I have labeled as cool cards. And I blame you guys for this list. Before I jumped on YouTube and started watching all of you and how you collect and the things you pay attention to with your cards and your collections. I never had a list of cool cards, right? I've talked about this in my other videos where I just can't have a stack of random cards sitting in my collection with no place to put them, no list to put them on, right? No category to file them under, if you will. So I have created a cool card list, which essentially allows me to collect whatever else I want, right? Outside of those other lists. So if I want the certain card or a certain year or a certain set or whatever it is that I'm not collecting, I'll put that under the cool card list. And that's where they fall. So I can collect whatever the hell I want. So you're probably asking, well, what's the problem, Jerry? Right? Sounds like you got it all laid out. It's got it all planned, right? What's the problem? Tell us what your problem is. Why are you here at the Baseball Card Gamblers Anonymous meeting that we're having today? So, well, my problem is I can't stop buying, right? I've talked about the monetary value of my cards in previous videos, and I probably have, like I said, a half a dozen cards that are worth $100 or more. Everything else is less than that. And I've got a lot of cards in my collection that fill those lists out that I just explained, right? So I primarily collect cheap cards, and I define cheap cards as anything less than like 10 or 15 bucks, right? That's really what I look for. I look for cards that appeal to me and cards that I can afford. So with that being said, I could probably fill the bulk of my lists with a few hundred cards that are less than 10 or 15 bucks, and that'd be great, right? I'd be done, right? The challenge with that is that, when do I stop, right? Because we all have budgets that we have to spend on baseball cards, and it's easy to stay within that budget if you are buying high dollar cards. So for example, if my budget is, just as an example, $100, right? If I go out and I spend $100 on a card, boom, I'm done, right? But it's a lot more difficult to stay within that budget if you're buying $3, $4, $5, $10 cards, right? $15 cards. It's harder to stay within that budget. And you might say, well, Jerry, it's just simple math, right? If you want to spend $10 on a card and your budget is $100, you buy 10 cards, right? It's easy for you to say, right? But it's not that simple. At least for me, it's not that simple, right? So when I'm looking for cards, and I primarily buy off of eBay, right? So you're scanning the list on eBay. We all do this, probably, the same thing I do, right? Late at night, laying in the bed, trying to go to sleep. Let me just scan some eBay, see if I can find some cards I like, right? Oh, there's a $3 card. That looks good. Let me save that to my little wish list, right? What's one more $3 card this month? But you just buy that. I kind of like that card. Well, if you do that every night, next thing you know, you're up to $100, and it's like, okay, well, I'll spend my budget on this month for $100. But you know what? You can't stop searching, can you? Right? We're collectors, right? You can't stop looking for the cards that you want, right? We're always looking for that next card. And if you are the collector that buys $100 cards, it's easier to hold off for the next month's budget on that card than it is if you're buying $3 or $4 or $5 cards every time, right? Because what's one more card at $3? Well, you know what that means? It's like, that means I can't go to the gas station tomorrow and buy a soda, right? Okay, that's fine. I won't buy a soda tomorrow. I'll buy a card today, right? And then tomorrow the same thing happens, right? Because you can't stop searching. You can't stop looking for the cards. And then the next thing maybe is a card show, right? You go to the card show because, you got to go to a card show because you're a collector. So you go to a card show, and then what do you find? You walk out of there with $30 worth of cards. Maybe you got 4 or 5 cards for $30. Deal, right? Cards you need for your lists, right? These are cards you want, right? You're not buying cards that you don't want, You're buying cards that are on your list that you do want, right? And then you go home that night. It's like, let me just scan eBay for a little bit. Oh, look, there's another card, right? Another $3 card. I can buy that card. What's $3 more? That just means I can go to the gas station and buy me a soda. It just never stops. So I'm glad to be a part of this group. Baseball Card Collectors, Gamblers Anonymous. My gambling addiction is not knowing when to stop, right? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to control myself. So, when's the next meeting? I'll be here for the next meeting because I need some advice. I need some help. I need some consultation on how to control this addiction of buying baseball cards. And oh, by the way, can I search eBay while I'm here? Because I know I've got about at least $3 more to spend this month.